Well, here we go. Our first episode of Tanner's Travels. So, since my wife is the one who said I should start doing this, she also told me I should tell you a little bit about myself. She says this will be really interesting. Everybody's going to love this when you YouTube. I recently retired. For 22 years, I did a morning radio show in Charlotte, North Carolina, on a country radio station. We did very, very well. Had a lot of listeners. Got to meet and hang out and become friends with a lot of folks who are country stars, names that I'm sure I will go into later on when we're doing Tanner's Travels and tell you a little bit about these folks. But it was absolutely wonderful. I have a fantastic wife who we've been married for just about 22 years. I have two children. My daughter is 21 right now, and we took her up to Charlotte, North Carolina from Central Florida, where my wife is from. We took her up there when she was a baby. We carried her in literally a baby carriage, and we started the show up there in Charlotte, North Carolina. My son, he was born in Charlotte. He is now 19 years old. Both brilliant children, brilliant, smart as can be. Don't know where it comes from. My wife, okay? No, they had a 2-year college degree already when they got out of high school, so they're both really smart, although I do like to mess with them from time to time. We all do this, and that's what you're going to get when you follow Tanner's Travels. We take shots at each other. We'll just smack it out of the park, and it's okay. We're not hurting anybody's feelings. We're having a good time. So this all started with me doing radio. I grew up on the east side of Cleveland in a city called Wickliffe in Ohio. That's where I was born and raised. And then as I started to get older, I got this little itch. I really wanted to do TV. I wanted to be a sportscaster. Problem was, I found something out. I sucked at being a sportscaster. Wasn't very good. So we also had to take radio while we were taking TV when I was going to college at Cleveland State University. So the radio suddenly became something I liked. And I went on and started doing the radio. Now, you move around like crazy when you're first starting off on radio. I worked in Monroe, Louisiana. I worked in Muncie, Indiana. I worked in Lima, Ohio at a top 40 radio station. I worked in Little Rock, Arkansas. I moved to Lakeland, Florida for one of my jobs, and that's where I met my wife 22 years ago through her sister who worked for a car dealership called Bartow Ford. And I had come out there and done some appearances, and she told me I should meet her sister. I said, oh, I'd love to meet your sister. Send me a picture. She did. She was gorgeous. I thought, what was she thinking? She worked for a minister when I met her. Yeah, she worked for a minister, and I was doing a radio show where at one time we actually had the police department come to the radio station because of just some trouble we caused. It was all about Christmas, and you can't put signs on public property, but we did. Well, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't do it. But went up to Charlotte, worked there for many, many years, did really well, won awards, nominated tons of times for CMAs and ACMs, have an ACM award for Major Market Personality of the Year. Now we've moved back here to Central Florida. My wife's got a lot of aunts who are getting older. We wanted to come down here and help take care of them. We just bought a new house in Central Florida because my sister-in-law has moved in with us too. We have 3 dogs. 2 of them are boys, and they were left on the doorstep of my sister-in-law's son. The dogs came, and I knew it was going to happen. We ended up with the dogs, and they joined my golden retriever, who's older. Her name is Sandy. We have a cat named Tink. We have another cat named Sushi in my daughter's room upstairs, and I have 2 lizards. Now, they were my kids' 2 lizards, but my kids weren't feeding them. So now they're with me, and they love me, the lizards, because I feed the lizards. So here we are in Central Florida now. How did we get here? Well, I just recently retired. Just decided after the company offered us a retirement package where they said you can voluntarily do this. Didn't have to leave the radio station, wasn't a problem. We decided since I just turned 63, I'm working towards 64, maybe I'll call it. And I did. Now my wife wants me to do YouTubing. So what we're going to do is go all around to different places. We'll do some Disney, we'll do some Universal, we'll do some things in Florida. We'll show you this house as we're trying to get it in shape. It's got almost an acre of land, which for an old man like me, that's difficult to do. We're redoing that. We'll show you some of that stuff and just have some fun. Have a good time while we're doing it. So hopefully it'll be interesting for you. Yeah, we've had a lot of nature come and visit us already in this new house. My wife said, "You're in the country." I said, "Yeah." I just recently had to wrangle a gator. Yeah, I'm not kidding, a gator. The dogs were barking, and luckily it was outside the fence. I'll show you that video somewhere down the line. We apparently have had a bunch of different animals show up over here. We've got 2 different snakes. We've got a black snake, and we've got one of them, it's not a copperhead, it's a corn snake, but I'll show you those videos too. So lots of animals coming to visit us here. With my retirement situation, we decided to go ahead, stay down here. Not really going to look for work. Going to do some YouTubing, have some fun. I loved my radio career. We did run into a problem about 13, 14 years ago. When I turned 50, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it was one that was discovered literally on my 50th birthday. My doctor, who was a great guy, he recently has passed away, and he discovered it because at 50, I think guys know they ask if they could do that test they want to check with the glove. So he did. And he has a sense of humor. The first thing he said was, "Well, that shouldn't be there." And he was right. I had a tumor in that area. It turned out it was called a chest tumor. They're very rare. You don't take normal chemotherapy. I had to take oral chemotherapy for a little over 2 years. I came down to Tampa from Charlotte to have them look at my tumor and give me some advice, the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa. The head of the department there said, "I know your doctors in Charlotte have been saying take this medicine, let's shrink the tumor first before we take it out." He said, "We need to get it out right now." So we did, and boy, it's kind of ugly. That was the first one. Yep, got over that one, and 2 years later, they found a different type of cancer in one of my kidneys. So they removed part of my right kidney, and in the process, took out part of one of my ribs too. So I've been sliced and diced, front, side, all around, but continue on. My feet, I have a hard time feeling those because if you're older like I am, they say if you take any kind of chemo, you'll get neuropathy. Yeah, it's happened. Also had a blood clot, just to add to the festivities. So I take blood thinners for that. They tried to put a stent in my leg and it closed down twice. Won't work. So there you go. But you know what? By God's grace, I am still breathing and still loving life. So we're going to take a trip all around the place here in Central Florida. Who knows? Might even take you to some other states. But we're going to have a good time, and we're going to call it Tanner's Travels. So hopefully you will join us on our little expedition. Hopefully I'll be able to get my kids involved more often. I'll let you see the dogs. You're going to love the dogs. The dogs are always a good time. Oh, and by the way, since we are starting right now with this whole thing, my wife is in a boot because she didn't break her leg. Her foot, she broke somewhere like in that section in the back, but it's very painful and hard to get to grow back together. But she was out in the yard. We let the dogs out in the side yard. They're fenced in. They love to go out in the morning, all the dogs, and we put a couple water bowls out there. But if you have dogs, you know what they'll do? They'll dig. Well, these dogs were digging, and my wife got her foot into one of those holes and twisted it and turned, and lo and behold, down she went, and she did some real damage. And I could hear her calling me from outside. Luckily, I was actually still doing my radio show at that time, and I did it from my home here in Central Florida. The rest of the crew was in Charlotte. I was doing it from a studio here that I have in my home, a little studio I'd set up. And I went out there and got my wife, and she was in obvious pain. I mean, literally screaming and crying, and I'm freaking out. I don't know if I need to call an ambulance. She's like, no, it just hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. You need to get me up off the ground. And so I'm thinking, all right, big burly man, come on, pick her up. I just reached over, picked her up, carried her in the back area where I'm sure you'll probably see we have a pool area and screened in, walked her in there and set her down in a chair. And well, when we finally ended up being able to get her to a hospital, and they said the problems we had with her foot, never do this, guys. And I'll say this continuously because I'm trying to drive a point home. When you're sitting next to your wife of 22 years and you've had to pick her up from outside and she's got damage done to her foot, don't look at her and say, it is a lot harder to lift you than it used to be. That's a no-no. Hope you enjoyed us as we do our travels. It's Tanner's Travels all over Central Florida and beyond. Little craziness thrown in. So if you would like to subscribe, we would sure love you to. Please tell your friends. And I promise it will not be a bunch of me sitting here talking to you, staring at my mug.